Hello, everyone. I'm Coach Jacinto. I'm a strength and conditioning coach and a health teacher at Mountain View High School here in Bend, Oregon. A little bit about myself. So I've been a strength coach for over 12 years in the private sector. Just recently, I decided that I wanted to be in the high school setting. So I went back, got my master's, and became a licensed PE teacher. So now I am at Mountain View High School. So I was never that kid that my parents could send me to the private sector for extra strength and conditioning training. So I decided that why not bring my knowledge and experience into the high school setting. So hopefully these videos will spark some conversation with maybe some other PE teachers that are teaching weight training, or other high school strength coaches, or coaches that want to know a little bit more about strength training for their athletes. So hopefully you'll get something out of these videos, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, so first let's talk about the system that we use. So we utilize the tier system, which was created by Joe Ken. If you like what you hear about the tier system, but you really want to dive into it a little more, look up Joe Ken. He's got a lot of information out there on the tier system. But yeah, check him out. So this is how we utilize it and how we organize our program utilizing the tier system. So first, we'll break it down to our 4 basic movement patterns: our squat, so our knee dominant exercise, and then our push, our hip hinge, and our pull. Okay, so we've got those 4 basic movement patterns, and then we're going to add exercises to different tiers. Now, keep this in mind. So we've got 3 tiers on this slide. Okay, so tier 1 is your priority lift. And as you go down, tier 2 and tier 3, they have less priority, but still very important exercises to your program. Okay, they just don't have the priority maybe that day. Okay, so for our tier 1 exercise in the squat category is our back squat. Okay, so our push tier 1 exercise is the bench press, and our hip hinge tier 1 exercise goes back and forth from deadlifts to cleans. It really depends on the season. Okay, and for our pull tier 1 exercise are our pull-ups. Okay, and then it goes down tier 2. Our tier 2 for squats is the front squat. Our tier 2 for push is incline press. And then our tier 2 for hip hinge is our cleans. And our tier 2 for pull are single arm rows. Okay. And then tier 3 for our squats, lunge or RFEs, we'll do lateral lunges, reverse lunges. You can even add step ups. So whatever you want your tier 3 exercise to be. That's the beauty of this program, is that you can kind of modify it to how you want it to work, whatever works best for you, for your needs. Okay. Our tier 3 exercise for our push is our single arm overhead press. And then our hip hinge tier 3 exercise is our single leg deadlift. And then our pull tier 3 exercise is our bent over rows. Okay, so that's kind of our core lifts. And then we'll chat a little bit more about how I put together those core lifts into our daily and weekly program. Okay? Okay, so one of the reasons the tier systems make so much sense for us is it's actually a 3-day a week workout a week program. Okay, so for me, I only get to see our students 3 days out of the week. Rarely do I get to see them 4 days out of the week. So the majority of the time we're working out 3 days out of the week. So this works out great for us. Okay. So this is how we break down the 3 different days. Okay. And for our core lifts. So these are our core lifts. This is how I organize it. Okay. And this is how I put it together. Now, on the top section, you can see the different letters. So in the first day, above the day 1, you can see LUT. So what that means is lower body, upper body, and total body. So The great thing about the tier system, and I think it's so great for the high school athlete, is that we're working a full body workout every day. Okay, so for the 3 days, there's no split on these. Okay, so we're doing full body workouts. Now, day one, you can see there's an LUT, so lower body, upper body, and total body. And then look, if you can see over day two, right above day two, you see a UTL, which is upper body, total body, and lower body. So the emphasis switches to our upper body. So our priority lift becomes our upper body. So then for day three, our priority lift becomes the total body lift, okay? So then it's TLU, so total body, lower body, and upper body. So each section gets its own turn, okay? So priority one day, and then maybe it's a tier two the next day. Okay, so we'll kind of go over that and how I put it together here. So you can see over on the left section where it says the different tiers are your tier one, tier two, and tier three. Remember, your tier one is your priority lift. So you can go across and see what our priority lifts are for each day. So for day one, our priority lift is the back squat. For day two, our priority lift is the bench press and single arm rows, okay? Just because logistically, we're gonna add another exercise. We wanna make sure that we get all our 4 basic movement patterns that we saw on the other table. We wanna make sure that we get them into our weekly program, okay? And then for our day 3, our total body, tier 1 is going to be our clean. So that's gonna be a total body lift, okay? So then tier 2, we're gonna go overhead press and pull-ups. So we're gonna combine those two, okay, for our upper body, tier 2. And for our tier 2 total body, on day 2, you can see weighted jumps, all right? And then you can go over to day 3, our tier 2 exercise, our front squats, okay? And then we go back, we're gonna go through our tier 3 exercises, resisted and assisted jumps. So some type of power, okay? So it just really depends on the season, depends on the athlete. Maybe you can put in some landmine jammers in here. So what we do as we get into closer to preseason, so all my skill athletes will have resisted and assisted, okay? And then all my linemen are gonna have landmine jammers as a tier 3 exercise, okay? And then for day 2, our tier 3 lower body is going to be rear foot elevated squats and lateral lunges. Now, what I like to do is, so for week 1 and week 3, we'll do rear foot elevated squats. And then for week 2 and week 4, we'll do lateral lunges. Okay, so this way they're getting both lateral and linear in the month. Okay, so we're just switching them off every week. Okay, and it gives them something a little different too, and kids like that, right? And then our tier 3 exercise for day 3, is going to be our bent over rows. Okay, so that's kind of how we break down all our core lifts and how we put these together. Okay, now we'll talk a little bit about our accessories and how we come up with our accessories and how we add them to our core lifts and put it together. Okay. Okay, so now that we talked about our core exercises, our core lifts, and how we organize those, let's talk about our accessories. So our accessories will target weaknesses that maybe athletes may have, or depending on the athlete, like baseball players, we may have them doing, some weighted Ys or different types of exercises. Our overhead athletes may be doing different accessories than our other athletes. But accessories are very, very important, not just to address weaknesses for our athletes, but also to give my high school students something to do. Now, if I don't have a place for my high school students to be, they're going to find a place to be, right? And more than likely, they're not going to be where you want them to be. So what I like to do with our accessories is kind of create a little circuit, right? So it allows them to be in a small area to where I've created a little circuit for them to where there's always something for them to do, all right? So if they get off track, I at least have some way to motivate them to get back on track. Hey, aren't you supposed to be doing this? What accessory are you supposed to be doing right now? Okay, so there's always something for them to be doing. If they have a place to be, then they'll be there. If not, they're going to find a place to be. And it's probably not going to be where you want them to be. Okay, so that's why we use our accessories. And this is how I break it down. This is how I put it together and how I organize it. Okay, so for our day one, it was an LUT day. Okay, lower body, upper body, total body. So we're going to add ISO footwork. So isometric footwork into our tier one. So it's going to pair up with our back squats. Okay. If you want to know more, I just stole this from Cal Dietz. He does a lot of work with isometric footwork. If you want to know more about isometric footwork and how you can put it into your program, look up Cal Dietz. He's got lots of stuff on isometric footwork. Okay, and then for day one, our upper body for our tier two, for our tier two exercise, we're going to incorporate biceps. Okay. And then our tier three, we're going to add hamstring slides, okay? And then we always throw in some type of ab or core work into our accessories. Make sure they're getting that core work as well, okay? So a good accessory to have. And day two, you can see it's a UTL, so upper body, total body, lower body. For our tier one, we're gonna add triceps to that for our upper body. And then our total body, we're gonna add some med ball side toss. Okay, so for our total body, we're working power. Remember, we're working power. So we're gonna add side toss to that, okay? Now, and then for our lower body, we're gonna add some banded good mornings, all right? And then standing curls will be our abs and core work for that day. And then day three, you see TLU, total body, lower body, upper body. So for our total body, we're gonna do med ball slams to go with our cleans. And then we're gonna do, for our lower body, we're gonna do a hip hamstring stretch to go with our front squats, okay? And then for our upper body, we're gonna do pullovers for our tier three to go with our bent over rows, okay? So that's how we add, and that's how I organize our accessories. And I'll show you how I group them together in the workout and how I put those all together, okay? All right, so now we figured out what our core lifts and what our accessories are, and now let's put it all together. So one of the great things that I learned from Mike Boyle, well, I mean, obviously, I've learned a lot of great things from Mike Boyle, but one of the things that really stood out was he says, if you want to be a great, he said, all great strength and conditioning coaches are like great chefs. So they create these amazing recipes using the right ingredients, okay? So what I like to do when I look at this weekly program, monthly program, yearly program, is am I using the right ingredients for what my students need? If not, I can always take things out, right, and adjust it. But I always look at, put it in a big picture. Does it make sense logistically? Is it the right ingredients that my students need? Okay, so now let's look at how I put it together in our 3-day workout. How do I put our accessories and our core lifts together? Okay, so as you can see, the top has the letters. So for day one, we've got LUT, so lower body, upper body, total body, and then the different tiers are going to be on the left-hand side. Okay, so this is how I pair them together. So A1 is going to be our back squat, and then we're going to pair that up with our A2, which is going to be our iso footwork. Okay, so now I can have 3 or 4 students, and not a lot of them are just standing around doing anything, right? So one of them is doing a back squat, maybe one of them is coaching. We do a lot of peer coaching, which I think is very important. And then we have one student spotting, and the other person's doing some iso footwork. So now I've got 4 students, and they all have a place to be, okay? And they can just circuit around and they all have a job. Okay. One of the things that I learned in high school is your high school students need a place to be. Okay. So if they know where they're supposed to be, it makes classroom management that much easier. Okay. So For day one, our tier one back squat. A2 is our iso footwork, okay? And then for our tier two for day one, which is our upper body, we have B1, which is our overhead press. And then we have B2, which is our pull-ups. And then B3, which is our biceps, okay? So now I have to look, does it make sense logistically in our rack? So now we have 12 racks in our weight room. So I can fit up to 48 students if I do it wisely, okay? So I have to make sure that logistically it makes sense. So in our rack, we can do pull-ups, okay? We've got pull-up bars in our rack. And then with a bar sitting right outside, we're doing biceps with the bar. And then right behind them, we've got the next student athlete doing overhead, single arm overhead press, okay? So now we've got 1, 2, and 3 circuits all in that small area to where logistically it just makes sense. Now I can fit 36, 48 students into my weight room, okay? So tier 3, we have resisted and assisted jumps, or you can, like I said, for my linemen, we do the landmine jammers. And then we've got, for C2, we've got hamstring slides, and then we've got our ab work. Okay, so we've got anti-extension, so our ab wheel. So 1, 2, and 3. So there's three stations there in that circuit where they're just kind of circuiting around. Okay, and then for day 2, our priority lift is upper body. So our tier 1 exercise is the bench press, and we pair that up with single arm rows. For us, logistically, it makes sense. We have extra benches that we put in between our racks. We have plyo boxes on the other side of the racks, so our students go from bench press to single arm rows. So now we can have a spotter, someone bench pressing, and then another person doing their single arm rows. Now they're just circuiting around those 3 stations, okay? And then for our tier 2, we've got weighted jumps. For B1, B2 is med ball side slams, and then B3 is our band good mornings. All right, so now we've got 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and then for our tier 3, C1 is our RFE or lateral lunges, depending on the week. Okay, and then we do some triceps, and for our C3, our standing curls. Now you can see that I added triceps to the lower body tier. Now, that's the thing, is like, I looked at the entire week and I saw, what do my students need? Where does it make sense? Where can I fit in some tricep work? Okay, so for our tier 3, this is where it made sense. I can throw in some tricep work in here, and logistically it makes sense for our students. Okay, so day 3, TLU, our priority lift is our total body. So we've got cleans and med ball slams. And then our tier 2 for our lower body, we've got front squats, single leg deadlifts, and then we have a hip hamstring stretch. Okay, so they've got 3 exercises. They're just circuiting around. Okay, then we've got our our tier 3 upper body. So we've got bent over rows. So we've got rows, and then we're doing pullovers on the bench, and then we're doing V-ups on the floor. Okay, so 1, 2, and 3. Logistically, it makes sense for us. Okay, we're keeping our group's footprint small to where I can manage a class of 48 students. Okay, so as you can see, all my tier 1 only has 2 exercises because those are my priority lifts, right? Like we're gonna work our max strength during those tiers. Okay, they're our priority lifts. So we're not going to put a lot of other stuff. I want them to focus on those main lifts. Okay, now one of the reasons why Joe Ken created the tier system is that he was a football strength and conditioning coach, and what he saw is like, because traditionally what we do is we train power before strength, right? Speed, power, and then strength. Now he said, well, maybe I could we can train power later in our session, just kind of like I want my football players to tap into power in the 3rd or 4th quarter, right? So As you can see, I utilize the T for our power. So you can see it in day 1, it's in the in tier 3. So our athletes have exerted themselves a little and are still trying to enhance their power when they have been exerted some, right? So it's like the third. So we're trying to replicate a little bit as much as we can the third and fourth quarter. And now for our power, we do it in day 2. We do it in a tier 2. Okay. And then for our power on day 3, we do it right off the bat. It's our priority lift. Okay. So that's kind of why he came up with the tier system. This is why I like it. I like it for a lot of different reasons. It's a full body workout. It makes sense logistically for us, and it's worked really well. Okay, so next videos, we'll talk about rep schemes and volume and how we put it together into a work card for our students.